Happy New Year, listeners. Coming up this week, we delve into the football over the Christmas and New Year period. We discuss new managers, transfers, and VAR. I have more Wonders of White. This week is an FA Cup themed, and we will also look at some of the shocks from the third round. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to View from the Sideline podcast, episode 16. It's Chris here, and I'd like to introduce Liam.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Liam. We've got you in on a loan deal for a few weeks.
Saving your season.
Yeah, while Rich is away. So welcome aboard. Obviously, you've done bits and bobs on the podcast before, and you are a Villa fan, so it'd be good to get opinion from the other end of the table, unfortunately for you, rather than me just talking about top four all the time.
Thanks, mate.
Chelsea.
Thanks for reminding me there.
So we've got a lot to get through this week. So a lot of it is FA Cup themed, as we have just gone through the third round. We'll also look at the fourth round draw later. Unfortunately for Liam, Villa aren't quite in that fourth round draw. I'll stop, Liam.
Yeah, cheers again.
Pete's going to save you now because he's got this week's teaser.
Which player played 2 seasons in the Premier League from 2012 to 2014, scoring 28 goals in 67 games, and also helped his team to win the League Cup?
That is a difficult teaser because I'm not familiar on who actually won the League Cup between those years. So this is going to be a shot in the dark.
No idea whatsoever.
They won the League Cup, so it could be one of a number of teams that I can. Whenever you think of a cup win, you always think of like the big 6 teams. So that doesn't really help because obviously League Cup is anyone's really, isn't it? But speaking of the League Cup, there's a game on tonight, semi-final. United versus City, and I believe City are 3-0 up in that one, Liam. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. I think it's just gone to half-time, 3-0 to Man City. So
not good for United there, as probably one of their only chances of actually winning a trophy this season. Looks to be going down the pan as we speak.
It's just described by Robbie Savage as the worst United half of the season. So, yeah, I don't think well.
To be fair, it's strange really because obviously they beat City obviously not too long ago in the league, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But we'll speaking of the Premier League, so we've had a huge amount of games, so probably 5 or 6 games I would actually say since we actually last did a podcast. They do like to cram in the games over the Christmas period. But obviously there are a few talking points from those games, not necessarily the results. So there wasn't too many shocks, I would say. But one of the biggest talking points, Liam, I think, is VAR. A lot has been said over the Christmas period about VAR. Unfortunately, most are negative. So it's not going how people, because a lot of people were already very wary of it coming in. And I think those people that were wary of it are now obviously saying, well, kind of told you so. But do you personally feel that it's working, or do you think that there are things that they do need to improve?
There's a lot that they should be looking at, I think. If they're going to stick with it, there's a lot that needs to change. I had a look back at the fixtures on New Year's Day and the fixtures from the Saturday before, and just in those 2 rounds there was, I think, about 4 or 5 games where VAR has basically decided the outcome of the game or had a huge effect on it in some way. I think the ruling was VAR was to be brought in for clear and obvious errors.
Yeah. When
you're getting offsides that are 2 millimeters, 1 millimeter.
Yeah, well, I think
either way, it's not clear and obvious.
Yeah, well, I think that's
the lines. Just show the referee a replay. If he's happy with his decision, get on with the game. If it is a huge error, at least he's had the chance to rectify it. But yeah, I think they. I didn't watch a live game for the first couple of rounds that VAR was in use. And I heard people complaining about it, but I hadn't actually seen it in any of the games that I've watched until the Villa game against Burnley when I was on earlier this year. The pause that it takes, the amount of times it's actually used in a game it's slowing everything down. I appreciate they've got to have some time dedicated to watching videos, but I mean, it's a joke. It is getting beyond a joke.
I think going back to your earlier point, I think that the margins that these people are being caught offside in is utterly ridiculous, to be honest with you. Like you said, this was supposed to be brought in for clear and obvious mistakes, not mistakes as such, but things that the referee hasn't seen or the linesman. And I think on a few occasions, especially over Christmas, I think when they're drawing those lines on the TV monitors, it's just how close people are offside. I just think that it's those decisions that are kind of ruining it, I think. And I think there is a slight inconsistency as well, because when you've got different referees in charge of VAR for different games, they are going to interpret things differently. And like you said, obviously you've experienced it a few with the Villa Burnley game as well. Chelsea had one earlier on in the season where there was a foul. Chelsea had there was a foul made on an opposing player, and Chelsea went on and scored. And this happened 1.5 minutes after the foul, but it was brought back for a free kick to the other team. So I think there's a lot that needs to be looked at. Like you said, the timing issue. I don't really know what they can do with that. I've heard some.
I think that they can make a change with the timing issue. Is that you give 60 seconds to the video referee. If he's not made a decision by then, it's not clear and obvious mistake.
Yeah.
If you can't make a decision within 2 viewings of a replay, there's no clear and obvious error.
Because there's TV stands in the ground as well for the referees to use, and I do believe that one was used this weekend in the FA Cup for the first time.
Which was good to see, and I think they should use it more. I think if the referee would overturn their own decision, they would actually get to see, rather than relying on someone looking at 6 or 7 replays or even more sometimes. So I'd like to see the monitor be used more.
Yeah, and I have seen this week, it might have been end of last week, they are going to review the VAR process to make it more clear for everyone, I think, including those in the ground. I know they've got the decisions on the big screen, but obviously to be left waiting for a long time, it can be quite confusing.
It can, and I think it should be scrapped for offside. I think you've just got to have it for blatant handballs or penalty issues where the referee might want a second look, and if he still thinks that his decision stands, fine. He's looked at it on a monitor, but he's to overrule it.
Yeah, I know Rich has said earlier on in an early episode of the podcast, even some of the penalty decisions that are being given are still very soft.
Yeah.
So and like I said, I think it's just how the person in charge of VAR, how they look at how it's their point of view, isn't it? So I think there's a lot of different feelings around VAR, but mostly negative.
I would rather there be an official actually at the ground, but maybe in the stands, maybe has a better view of things, that can just get onto a microphone and just say, you might have missed something.
Yeah.
Referee's back is turned. There's been a fight or something. They are the clear and obvious things that need to be cleared up.
Do you think making the referees wear microphones so you can hear? I know this won't help people within the ground, but obviously people watching home at TV, if they were mic'd so you can hear the conversation, the actual conversation that is going on between the two parties, to find out what their reasoning is behind, because all we get to see is them either point, if it's a point at the spot or not. We don't really get a reason behind how they've come to that conclusion. So
I think it would be so much. It works so well in rugby union, and there are other sports that use it as well. I don't see why a referee can't be mic'd up these days. I understand that there's been an argument, with the language and stuff that's used. you don't want to sort of expose the wider public. I don't really play that. It happens in rugby union as well. So I don't understand why you can't just, or at least give a referee a chance to come out after a game and explain a decision, because that's never happened either. I'd love to see a referee come out and say, well, I made this decision because, and then they explain their reasoning, and I think that would make much more sense.
Well, that's enough for VAR. I think we're all VAR'd out this season already. So, but yeah, so we'll. So obviously, there's been a few managerial casualties over the Christmas period, but obviously the two main ones is obviously Michael Arteta coming back to Arsenal, and obviously I think probably even a bigger one was Ancelotti joining Everton, which I was really surprised about, because when I saw his name being linked with the job, I almost laughed at the idea that he'd go there, to be honest with you, but he obviously has, and I'll have to eat my hat on that one. But a great signing for Everton now, getting Ancelotti in. With all of his vast experiences, all the big clubs he's been at, including Chelsea.
And with money to spend as well, I think they've got quite a big transfer budget, so I think that's a really good appointment. It's a step in the right direction.
I think he'll definitely be siding the right places. I think we can both agree that maybe managers in the past for Everton have had the money to spend, but they've not spent it wisely, shall we say. But I've seen a slight improvement with them, I'd say already. I'd say defensively they look a lot better.
Yeah.
But I still think their main concerns will be going forward. Obviously, Moise Keane, obviously not really. He's not really got off to his Everton career yet, and from what I've seen, it looks like he's already on his way out. So, which is a shame, really, because he's obviously a huge talent. So,
yeah, I think what's interesting, it's a big statement, and I think what would have maybe happened before is players would have seen Everton coming in for them, and not really, big players would have maybe not thought about joining. But with someone like Ancelotti in charge, I think he's a coach a lot of players like to play for.
Yeah.
I think he'll be a draw for a few big names. And if he has got that money in the transfer window, I think give him a summer and he'll reinforce that side with some really good players. I think next year we could really be looking at Everton pushing for that back in the top half back for the Europa League, I think.
Do you think that Tottenham maybe have missed out on Ancelotti a little bit? Obviously Mourinho coming in, they were pretty quick to hire someone as soon as Poch had gone. I personally have felt that I think Ancelotti would be better suited to Tottenham than what Mourinho is.
Yeah, I think he would have brought a lot of good experience. I think, although Mourinho has equal experience in Europe, I think maybe he tarnished his reputation at Man United a little bit. Ancelotti's never really had that. Everywhere he's gone, he's succeeded by most accounts. And yeah, I think maybe looking back now, Spurs have had they had a bit of a bounce when Mourinho joined, but the last couple of weeks it's not been as good for them.
Yeah, well,
Ancelotti to just steady the ship rather than Mourinho to come in and make it all about him. I think they just wanted a quiet end to the season to just get it over with and build again for next year.
I spoke to Rich earlier just to see if he wanted to give any opinion on Tottenham. He is not very happy, to say the least, with their recent performances, shall we say. And he is still upset that they got rid of Poch and brought in Mourinho. He was calling for a lot of players to leave. So one being Eriksen, obviously who looks very certain to either leave now or in the summer.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right thing to do. I think Spurs have come to the end of a bit of an era for them, and it's time to rebuild and start again. And they've got people there to do it already. I think the
definitely
coming through, and I think they've got some good talents coming through. I just hope that Mourinho doesn't do his normal trick and neglect the younger players at a club. I mean, he did it at Chelsea for so long, and look how they've done now. with the younger players actually playing. So, yeah, I hope they can rebuild.
And so Arteta at Arsenal, obviously an ex-player, obviously has learnt a lot from Pep Guardiola, which is, I'm assuming, why Arsenal are hoping he can bring some of that to them. But I would say so far, I think they've improved on the results-wise. Probably their best performance under Arteta so far is probably the win against Man United. Even against Chelsea, they for 8 minutes of the game they were the better side. They just couldn't kill the game off, and obviously a mistake from the keeper, and we were back in the game and obviously getting the winner. But I even again, like I said about Ancelotti Everton, I think Arteta has definitely come in and has improved their defence. David Luiz against Man United, I thought was probably one of the best performances I've actually ever seen him have. Even when at Chelsea, I don't think I've seen him that good.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a small step in the right direction. Whenever an unproven former player is brought in charge of a club, the general consensus is it doesn't work. I think Lampard maybe has been the exception this year. I don't think it's worked too well with Solskjaer. I don't think it worked well with Giggs when he was in temporary charge either. Certainly with from a Villa perspective, when we've bought old players or even old managers for a second time around, like when Graham Taylor came back, it's more for sentimental value than anything. But I think Arteta's had long enough away to maybe pick up a few tips from Guardiola, obviously one of the best coaches in the world. The problem I think they've got is Arsenal should be fighting at the top of the league, and I don't know whether they'll be able to do that with Arteta in charge, because when you've got the understudy of someone come in to take your job, you're relying on them having enough ideas for themselves, because every time he comes up against Guardiola's going to think, well, look, I've got the beating of you. So I don't know maybe I hope he proves me wrong. I'd love to see Arsenal back at the top. You know, when I was growing up, they were playing some incredible football, and even though they beat everybody, it was still nice to watch. I'd like to see that kind of football being played again. But yeah, when a manager like Ancelotti is available, I don't know why they weren't throwing as much money at him as possible to try and get him in. It seems strange to go for an assistant manager with no experience over someone like that with great experience.
I think maybe they've kind of saw what Lampard's done at Chelsea for the first half of the season, and maybe just thinking to get the fans back on side a bit, maybe bringing an ex-player will help for now. But I think again, it's who they bring in now. I still think they probably do need another couple of defenders, especially I saw Chambers is out now for 9-10 months. So he's had hideous career of injuries, hasn't he? So
they looked very shaky against Leeds last night. I know they kept a clean sheet, but
Leeds were on top for most of that game,
especially in the first half. I don't know how they got away without conceding there. So I think they need some reinforcements. I think they need proper holding midfielder, because Xhaka seems to have. I know he played yesterday, but he didn't particularly play well.
He just gives too many fouls away. He's just slow.
He's good at when he actually gets a tackle right and wins the ball back. He's really good at doing that, and his energy levels are good. But it's then the bit he does after, and it'll be pass the ball off the sideline or overhit a pass or shoot miles over. It's the second bit that just doesn't seem to be working for him at the moment. But yeah, reinforcements needed everywhere. But they have got a good striker to start with, so that might encourage maybe some more creative players to go to Arsenal in summer.
Definitely. Well, Arsenal do. Obviously, they have the Invincibles. Can Liverpool do the same? Obviously, they are now running away with the league, it seems, and probably both agree that the league, they're probably going to win the league. So you just don't really know what to say about them at the moment. Even when they play bad, they win. and even when they have players out injured, they still win. Obviously, Fabinho has been out for 2-3 weeks now, but Jordan Henderson's come in and slotted in front of that defence like he's like
his life at the minute as well.
Yeah,
playing really well.
I was very surprised actually how well he's actually playing. I thought without Fabinho they may be a bit more susceptible at the back, but when you got Van Dijk in there and Gomez learning off Van Dijk, what can you do really? And that is.
They're all round at the moment, even coming off the bench when you've got, Oxlade-Chamberlain's come back fit again, and the cameos he seemed to have had so far, he's looking like he's on, more encouraging form. Lallana even played with the under-18s against Everton the other day, and he actually looked quite good again. I know Everton were poor, but it's good signs when you've got your subs and your reserve players actually look like they want to play every time they get on the pitch, and I think that's a positive sign for them. I actually think they've got a really good chance of breaking that record.
I think they will.
I think they really have. I looked at so Arsenal went on 49 games unbeaten, and although Liverpool have lost one game out of the last 49, they've actually got more points and more wins than Arsenal did in that 49 games they went unbeaten. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they went to the end of the year undefeated. I think they could do it, and I think they deserve to. I think we're watching probably one of the best teams in Premier League history at the moment, maybe without realising or giving them enough.
Oh no! You think the front three of Mane, Salah, Firmino. Firmino looks like a world-class striker, and he's not. I wouldn't say he's the most consistent goal scorer, but it's what he does either off the ball or when he has the ball to provide for Salah and Mane running in behind the defence.
Even if it's making a run and not getting the ball, he's always occupying other defenders. And even if it's not working and they take one of them off, every time Origi seems to come on, he seems to score as well. So really,
when you're making Origi look like a world-class striker, you know that you're doing something right. I'll tell you that. But fair play to them. A lot of people will say that they'd hate to see Liverpool win the league, but to be honest with you, when they're playing like they're playing, I don't think you can actually say much other than, congratulations, well done, you've won the league.
Yeah. Whenever a team is playing as well as they are, I always think it's good to watch. It's nice to watch good football. It doesn't really matter who it is. And personally, it's another name on the Premier League trophy. I think, for a competition, we need as many winners as possible.
I think
it's good to see. It's nice to see a name that isn't Man City on there because, by all rights, with the budget that they've got every year, Man City should walk the title every year.
Yeah.
They haven't. And I think Liverpool, although they have spent money, a lot of their important players actually haven't been bought for excessive amounts. Alexander-Arnold, youth team. Robertson was, I think, a swap deal for Kelvin Stewart, wasn't he? And a couple of million, next to nothing. All credit to him.
Yeah, just that we're very good at jinxing teams as well. So if Liverpool go on like a 10-game loss streak now, it's not my fault, by the way. Right, so we'll just talk a bit about our teams now and how we feel that they're faring at the moment.
Please do.
I'll start with Chelsea because I haven't really got a lot to say other than what I've been saying every other week, that there is still inconsistency within the results. Obviously, beating Tottenham and Arsenal put probably the biggest smile on my face.
Yeah.
But then losing to Southampton, Bournemouth, West Ham, Everton, not so great. But we're still fourth. I think that's the main thing. I think still 5 points clear of Man United. We've got Burnley at the weekend at home, so that'll be a game I think they'll be looking to get 3 points from. It's our home form at the moment that's actually letting us down. So as long as we can... Again, I'm unsure about whether signing anyone is actually the right thing to do at the moment. I think maybe bringing in one or two players may be okay, but you just don't really want to unbalance the team too much. I know we're very reliant on Tammy Abraham at the moment, and maybe we do need another striker just to push Abraham a bit more. When I've seen Giroud and Batshuayi this season, I've not been hugely impressed, but to be honest with you, they haven't really had that much time.
What do you think about Chelsea looking to offload strikers? I know that Giroud was a target for Villa. I don't think it's happening anymore, and Batshuayi is rumoured to be leaving.
Yeah, to be honest with you, we've had Batshuayi for 4 or 5 seasons now, and I think 3.5 of those seasons he's actually not been at the club anyway. So, to be honest with you, I think, and Giroud, I think Giroud's probably at that point of his career now where if he doesn't want to sign for another, he could easily play for another Premier League team, I think, but he can probably go make some money abroad somewhere, probably America or maybe in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, somewhere like that. I think he's kind of done what he needs to do. You know, he was immense for us last season when we won the Europa League, obviously top scorer in that competition as well. But, you know, a lot of people underestimated Lampard, I think, and obviously the state of the squad with obviously a lot of young players. But if you would have told me at the start of the season, without Hazard, without a transfer window, with a new manager that was, I suppose, unproven at the time, and you told me we were 4th in the FA Cups, got through the Champions League group stage, I probably would have laughed at you. So,
to be fair, I didn't expect Lampard to have the effect that he has had. I saw a lot of the Derby team that he had last year, and they did have some impressive games. But I actually thought for the squad he had, automatic promotion was probably the target, and it maybe didn't get there. But now I'm looking at it and thinking, well, actually, he did a good job with the team that was there. And I think he's done a great job. I mean, these youngsters that you've got coming through, I think be rolling out a new one every week, and every week I'm looking at the next big thing coming through.
Oh yeah, and you've got obviously people who don't follow sort of the youth team level football, like for about 4 or 5 seasons, these players that are playing for Chelsea now, these youngsters, they were dominating the youth leagues and the youth cups for 3-4 seasons. So it was only a matter of time before they were brought through, and it's probably why Lampard, one of the main reasons Lampard was brought in, because obviously he had coached some of these players at Derby. There was a couple of them at Derby with him, but he was there when these players were playing at their best at youth level, so he kind of knows them inside out. So, but yeah, very happy 4th. Hopefully we can stay there. And
also, you've still got the lads out on loan at the minute. I'm looking at Conor Gallagher quite a lot in the Charlton team. He's been season. I think the future's bright. I looking at the Chelsea squad at the moment, I know it's not going to win the league, but yeah, I don't think too much is needed in the way of major changes. I really hope he sticks with that philosophy, even though you can now buy people. So
the race to avoid the drop, Liam. Unfortunately for you,
we're
Villa are in amongst that. I'll just a few things that I've noticed over the some of the games, those key games over Christmas that you needed 3 points from, you've lost. I think some of them, especially against the teams that are in and around you, I think have been probably the downfall for you. But more obviously, you've got your own opinion on. Obviously, they're your club, so.
Yeah, so I looked at the run of fixtures over the Christmas period and thought we've got a really big chance of getting out of it with games against Norwich, Southampton and Watford, who were all below us at the start of the Christmas period. And to lose at home to Southampton as badly as we did was a bit of a kick in the teeth. But we pulled it back the next game with a win at Norwich, and you think, well, now is the time to kick on. And then you have a horrible game against Watford where you lose 3-0 to a team with 10 men for 35 minutes. And then you think, well, things are going really bad and there's only one way that we're going to go. And then we went away to Burnley and played probably the best I've seen us play for a few months, certainly maybe since the start of the season. although we only won 2-1, it probably could have been more. I think maybe the fixtures are catching up with certain people. Obviously, McGinn looks like he's out injured for a few months now. But he played every game for us in the Championship last year. Grealish played every game for us in the Championship last year, just about, and has played every game this year. I don't know whether tiredness is coming into it, but I think we've certainly got quite a long way to go if we want to survive. And we've had a few injuries over the festive period. Obviously, like I say, McGinn is out, and we've got Wesley out now for the rest of the season, and we've got Tom Heaton out for the rest of the season, so they're big losses. But with Mings coming back in, Grealish is still playing well, and if those two play well for us in any game, I would always give us a chance of getting the result. So, whilst there are a lot of bad things, I'm still quite positive. I still think Dean Smith is the man. Maybe if he doesn't keep us up, I'd still like him to have a bit of time to turn it around. I think he's earned enough in getting us promoted to have the chance to get us out of trouble. I'm so desperate for him to succeed because he's a Villa fan, and I don't want to feel negative towards him. There's been a few times where his selection has maybe left me scratching my head a little bit, but overall he's done an amazing job. I just hope that there's 3 worse teams than us at the end of the year, but it's not looking like that at the minute. Although we have sort of dragged Bournemouth back into the relevant. Well, I say we. Southampton have been on a bit of a run as well. It seems to have pulled everybody a bit closer. But yeah, with the form that Watford are on, that's looking a bit dangerous, and Southampton are picking up points. So we need to start a run at some point.
But you've just signed on loan the equivalent of Xavi, so he's going to save your season, mate, this season.
He is. He's the English John McGinn, and he's come in seamlessly to our midfield, having not played for about 18 months or maybe even more. I don't know I know it's a loan deal, but I don't know what sort of finances have been agreed. I had read that we were paying his full wages of 120,000 a week. I hope that's not the case. I'm struggling to find reasons to be positive about it, because I just don't think he's fit. When he was fit for Leicester, was a great midfielder, but I don't see how you can be out of the game for as long and just come back in and help us for 6 months. If we'd have signed him permanently and we could give him the time to get back to fitness, it'd be something different. But we're looking for an immediate turnaround. And I don't know whether he's the right man for it, but I hope.
Probably won't be fit now till March.
Exactly. Yeah, so I don't really see what difference he can make. But yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I am. He's a hard worker. We do need a sort of battler in midfield that will sort of win the ball back and get us on the front foot. And I think, at his best, I think that's what he's good at doing. I just hope that we get to see that.
Well, let's hope you do.
I hope we get another striker, because I don't fancy spending the next 6 months with Jonathan Codger up front on his own, and no one else backing him up. So I heard the rumours today that we were looking at getting Glenn Murray in on loan. So that's a big, a big glamour player for us to bring in. To spend money, I don't think we've got it.
Splashing. The thing is now, you're at that stage now where do you spend money to try and stay up? Or do you run the risk of losing lots of money by getting relegated? Or do you not buy anyone and just see how it goes? It's just,
I think we've spent enough over the summer. And I think it would be a huge gamble if we were to spend too much more and still get relegated. I think that's why we struggled when we first went into the Championship, because we spent all that money to try and get us back up in the first season, and it massively backfired, and then we couldn't buy anyone for 12 months or longer. So, I think they're going to be a little bit more sensible this time around, and maybe not spend as much in January to try and get us out of it. But I think we have got what it takes to stay up. It's just giving the players that confidence that I think they need. It'll be, if we can put 2 or 3 wins together in a row, I think it'll do us to the end of the season, and we'll be in a good frame of mind. But yeah, there's been a few bad losses that I think maybe we will, the confidence isn't with us, and maybe we'll regret those come the end of the season.
We'll have to wait and see this. Well, yeah, the bottom sort of 5-6 teams is more exciting than what's at the top at the moment. So at least you're involved in something, I guess.
I would have loved a boring season in mid-table, to be honest.
All right, okay. Anyway, that's Christmas and New Year Premier League period done. And that is the end of part 1. In part 2, we'll be back with an FA Cup summary of a few of the shocks. We'll look at the 4th round draw. We'll also have a bit on the National League and see how Yeovil have been getting on. Predictions update, a bit on the FA Cup feature, the Wonders of White, and we'll also try and guess Pete's teaser. So we'll be back in part 2. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of episode 16 View from the Sideline podcast. We're going to go straight into some of the games at the weekend in the FA Cup. Wasn't too many shocks, but there were a few. We'll start with Rich will like this one, the Tottenham game, Middlesbrough-Tottenham. Game ending 1-1, obviously Tottenham going behind. And obviously getting the equaliser in that one. But again, a really poor game from Tottenham's point of view, and especially when you look at the team they actually put out for that game. But before the game, you probably would have thought that Middlesbrough might be able to pinch something from this game.
Yeah, they've been on a decent run in the league, to be fair, Middlesbrough. I did criticise Jonathan Woodgate earlier in the season because they were on a downward spiral, but... They've managed to turn it around a bit in the league. They look good, I think, against Spurs. I only managed to catch the highlights on Match of the Day. Didn't watch the game live. I just sort of assumed that Spurs had put a reserve team out, to be honest. It was only when I looked after the game had finished. It was actually on Match of the Day when I noticed a few of the bigger names that were being read out. I saw how strong they were. Obviously, there was no Kane. But when you got Mora and, Son was playing... Ali was playing, and it was the normal sort of defence. Then, not good for Spurs at the moment, is it?
No, and especially this is probably a game that they would have tipped to try and turn things round as well. But they just look very, very slow, even with Mora and Son up, pretty much up front. The build-up wasn't great. I still think they're missing some players. I don't think players, obviously, I think Eriksen's probably already gone, to be fair.
Yeah.
But obviously, no Kane now until March. So they are, I think, without him, with him they're struggling, but without him, I think that's even probably worse for them now. Rich was saying earlier that he thinks that they need to go out and buy a new striker.
I think they could do with a new striker because I don't think Lucas or Son are really out-and-out strikers. I think they're played up with people.
But the thing is, are you going to want to be playing behind Kane for the whole of the time you're at Tottenham? I just don't see a big player wanting to go there and be sat on the bench for the majority of the games, just because obviously they're not going to drop when Kane's fit. They're not going to drop him for another striker, but. Disappointing from Tottenham, but Middlesbrough probably deserved to win the game, to be fair. But just couldn't quite get there. But we'll. So the other, it's not so much a shock, but more of a shock on the scoreline was the QPR Swansea game, which ended 5-1 to QPR. Obviously, Swansea going quite well in the league at the moment, but I don't think anyone expected them to shit 5 against QPR, all teams who aren't the most free-flowing sort of team there is in the Championship. So quite a surprising result there.
Yeah, it was, and I think Swansea will have one eye on getting promoted back to the Premier League. I think a cup run probably wouldn't do them much harm. If you can get a cup run together, it does build a bit of confidence going into sort of the latter end of the season when you're in the Championship. But it is a long season, so yeah, maybe they just decided that competition wasn't for them. But yeah, really, QPR are not a free scoring side at all, like you say. So to get 5 against what is a pretty good defence, really, in Swansea. Big shock result, that one.
So another Premier League team out to a Championship team, Derby, they beat Palace by 1-0. But not too many. I don't think would have been actually hugely surprised by the actual result in this one. I think Derby are, on their day, they are a really good team, and obviously you've got to mention now that obviously a certain Wayne Rooney playing for them. I watched when he played his debut game. Was it last Thursday night? I think it was they played. Yeah. He set one of the goals up in that game. But he against Palace, he played more of a central defensive midfield player. So I don't know if that's something going forward they're going to look to have him play every game. I would have thought he would have rather be, playing more forward. But from what I hear, I didn't manage to catch the guys who saw the highlights. But from what I hear, he actually had a really good game.
Yeah, I heard the same, and it's a sort of role that he tried to get United to play him in towards the end of his career, and I guess it didn't really work out. But maybe now he's, getting on a little bit in years. Maybe the pace isn't quite there to play up front. But I think just to have him in the dressing room, even if he played, a handful of games before the end of the year, I think he's going to make such a difference. If I was a Derby player looking at him walking in the dressing room, to know that you've got, a former England captain and goal scorer, it must make a huge difference for a champion.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And yeah, credit to Derby for pulling it off, really, because I think Rooney would do a job for a lot of Premier League sides at the moment, let alone.
I think that's what some people were quite shocked at, that he decided to go to Derby when you'd probably say at least 12 of the 20 teams in the Premier League will probably he'd do a job for now. So
I'd snap your hand off to have him at Villa. I absolutely would. I think it's always good. I mean, we got John Terry from Chelsea at the latter end of his career, and the legs may have gone a little bit, but the mind is always still there. And he made such a huge difference having someone with that experience and those sort of medals and trophies behind him. And yeah, I think. Maybe I sort of expected a little bit more from Palace. I certainly thought that they would score, but
a
good result for Derby, and they'll. I think they've got Northampton in the next round as well, so I think they'll fancy their chances of going quite far.
I just wanted to touch on this game, the Liverpool-Everton game. Obviously, Liverpool ending 1-0, a great goal as well in this one. But a lot of people were saying. Saying it was like Liverpool's youngsters, but I think the average age of the team was 23 or 24, so not considerably young.
Certainly wasn't the age of the side that played Villa in the League Cup.
No, that's what I thought, because everyone was saying, it's Liverpool's youngsters, but I was looking at I looked after the game and was looking at the ages of the players, and I thought, well, most of these are in there like 22, 23, and then, they're not. They're not young. They're not young. Obviously, Lallana probably bumped the average age up at that squad a little bit.
I think what surprised me was that the ones that actually stood out were the younger players. I think Elliott looked good, and
he's a good signing. He is. They signed him.
And Williams, I think they're right back. He had a brilliant game, and I know that Trent Alexander-Arnold's probably going to be in that position for years to come for Liverpool, but another great prospect coming through in the same position is, incredible. I think they both look really good, and they were both teenagers. But, it was a mixture of youth and experience, because they did have one or two players. Milner played as well, didn't he? But only for about 3 or 4 minutes before he came off injured. So he would have bumped the age up as well a little bit. Still, nonetheless, if I was an Everton fan, I think I'd be very, very disappointed.
No, they weren't very good at all, Everton. Rochdale Newcastle ended 1-1. Quite a surprising result. But good game. I saw highlights this game. It was a very good game. Newcastle should have clearly won the game, but Rochdale doing well to get a draw.
Opposite end of the scale to the Liverpool team with a 40-year-old getting the equaliser, which was proves that I've still got time.
Yeah. Brighton losing to Sheffield Wednesday. Again, Sheffield Wednesday doing quite well in the Championship, so many people wouldn't have been that shocked by that. Obviously, although Brighton have been on good form recently. I quite like Brighton. A lot of people I've spoken to about them say they just play boring football, but I actually quite enjoy watching them sometimes. When they're on their day, they can play some really good football.
Yeah, there's a good atmosphere at this stadium. They've surprised me this year, definitely. I thought they'd be near the bottom, but they've done really well, and yeah, they do play some good football.
So, unfortunately for you, Villa are out. Can we just talk about the Fulham goal?
Which one, mate? They were both brilliant, to be fair. To be fair, I did watch the game. I can't fault that result. Both teams made lots of changes. It was by no means Fulham's first team either. I'm not using that as an excuse. They were better than us, but our priorities it's got to be on the league. So I wasn't too disappointed, but I think to maybe get to 1-1, you sort of hope, well, maybe a replay will be on the cards, and then. But yeah, to concede the winner like that, art strike was incredible.
Something special, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're going to lose a game, that's how you're going to lose it. I'm not too disappointed to go down.
You've got the semi-final tomorrow night, the League Cup as well, haven't you? So,
yeah.
Which I actually think you over 2 legs. I think you might actually win that one.
You've got a bit more faith than me because we were completely outclassed by Leicester at Villa Park earlier this season. But maybe they're thinking that Champions League football will be on the cards, and maybe they'll put out a weakened team. I'm saying it more in hope than expectation, to be honest. But yeah, you never know. We've got a good history in the League Cup, so anything can happen.
But the probably one of the biggest shocks of the weekend was the Watford-Tranmere game, ending 3-3 after Watford. I tell you what, this is Watford all over this season. 3-0, and the result it was 3-3 in the end. But yeah, proper FA Cup tie this one.
Yeah.
Tranmere really, really dug deep, and obviously for them, huge money for them to obviously get a replay as well now on Tranmere. The only thing I was really shocked about today is that they've listed the 2 games that they're going to show on TV, the replays, and they're not showing this game. That's crazy. No. So I can't remember who's got which game, but they've got the Tottenham Middlesbrough game and the Man United Wolves game they've picked.
They've not chosen the Rochdale Newcastle game either.
It's shocking, isn't it?
It's a bit of a shock, to be honest. I thought they would have picked those 2. They're the games that I want to see as a football fan, because I want
to You want to see the underdogs, don't you? You want to see those games, not Wolves Man United, who played out a 0-0.
A boring 0-0 draw as well. Nothing.
So yeah, but obviously there were loads of games over the weekend for the FA Cup. Obviously Chelsea won 2-0 against Forest. Northampton had a good win against Burton 4-2. Arsenal beat Leeds last night. But yeah, lots and lots of games. But the draw was made as well before the game last night. Obviously, if Tranmere do manage to get through and pass Watford, they will play one of Wolves or Manchester United. So that's a good incentive for them to go out and win that game against Watford. Spurs will play Southampton or Middlesbrough. Some of the other good ones, Bournemouth will play Arsenal or Leeds, and Manchester City Fulham. So yeah, good job you didn't get through, really, to be honest.
Yeah,
it would have been a bit daunting, wouldn't
it? I did chuckle to myself that we've avoided Man City there, but the tie as well that stands out for me is if Coventry manage to get past Bristol Rovers, they'll be playing their landlords, Birmingham City, at home. which then their home is St Andrews. So Coventry City will have a home game at Birmingham City's ground, which will be a quite unique experience, I think.
Might have to give up their home dressing room.
Yeah.
And obviously big for Bristol City as well. If they can beat Shrewsbury in their replay, they'll have Liverpool at Ashton Gate, which is a huge game for them.
Yeah.
Obviously Bristol quite local to where I am as well. So not too many of the big teams got drawn against each other. So they all avoided each other, really, don't they? So hopefully we'll see a few more giant killings in the next round. But speaking of, obviously we are running our FA Cup feature still. So we are still with Portsmouth. They actually beat Fleetwood at the weekend by 2-1. So we will carry on with them. And they are got not a bad tie, actually. And it's one that they could actually go through. Obviously, Barnsley at home. Barnsley struggling in the Championship. So who knows? Portsmouth could be in the 5th round. So we will remain with Portsmouth. Just quickly going on to the National League for a few bits on Yeovil. A very dull game at the weekend, which ended 0-0. But Yeovil's still second in the league. Barrow do have a few games in hand still in their top. So I think they could be about 9 points clear if they win their games in hand. So Yeovil's still got a bit to do because the playoff situation in the National League is just a joke. So, so we'll have to see what they can do there. Predictions. So we have got last week we had Alex who came in for predictions. He ended up on 16 points. Liam, you got 11, and
did very well there.
You got the goal. You did get the golden goal right though, same as me. So,
yeah.
And I got 31 points. So
smashing it.
I am smashing it this season, to be honest with you. And I think I should win a trophy on my own. But Alex's score is pretty good. 16 is good this season. But we will have more predictions next weekend. That will be put out on social media. Right, now for the time that Liam's been waiting for. The Wonders of White.
I'm so excited.
This is an FA Cup themed one, and I do have a Villa one in amongst these ones.
Thank you.
So we'll start off with most finals scored in is Didier Drogba. He scored in 4 different FA Cup finals in 2007, 2009, 2010 and 2012. The largest margin ever in a FA Cup game was Preston North End against Hyde on the 15th of October 1887 when Preston North End won 26-0. Yikes. You would not want to be in a travelling Hyde fan on that day. Most FA Cup wins, Ashley Cole, 3 with Arsenal and 4 with Chelsea. And here's your Villa one.
Yeah.
Most FA Cup goals conceded, Aston Villa 539. I'm sorry.
I felt sure you were going to say most FA Cups won was Aston Villa then for some reason. But
you have the honour of the most FA Cup goals ever conceded in the competition.
And that's with Hyde conceding 26. That's a shock, isn't it?
539 goals.
Nice.
So there was a good one as well, which I didn't put in because I couldn't work out whether the stats included the games that had just happened. But if they have just happened, Arsenal actually have the most victories in the FA Cup. But they were tied with Manchester United. They had exactly the same games won. Because Arsenal won last night, I thought it doesn't actually make it that much of a good stat. I thought maybe the stat would be better if they were actually tied, because you think how many FA Cup games they've both played, and for them to be tied on the most wins, I thought that was quite good. But then Arsenal ended up winning, and I was like, there's no point doing that one. But that one would have been in there. Your Villa one was always in there, mate.
Nice. Well, we've got to be good at something, so at least we're top of the goals conceded. So
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Pete's teaser. So, which player played 2 seasons in the Premier League from 2012 to 2014, scoring 28 goals in 67 games, and helped their team win the League Cup? And to be fair, that's as far as I got, because I cannot, for the life of me, actually think of who won the League Cup on those 2 years.
Did Chelsea not win it at that time?
No, because we didn't. We won it under Mourinho first, and then we didn't win it again until he was actually back in 2015, I think it was. So I'm pretty sure Man City might have won it.
Yeah, the player I could think of maybe had in Dzeko, but then 67 games sounded too few, I think.
He's definitely playing. He definitely scored more goals than 28.
Yeah, I was just trying to strikers that maybe had a decent record, but weren't too long.
I don't think this is going to be a City player. I think this is going to be the other team that I cannot for the life of me think won.
Did Spurs win it around then?
Mate, don't be silly. Spurs haven't won a trophy since
the
2008.
The only player I could think of was Pavlyuchenko, but he didn't score that many goals for Spurs, did he?
No, it's definitely not Spurs.
I don't know. I'm going to go with Dzeko just because I don't have anyone else.
I think it's the other. Right, so probably best off to start with who won the League Cup in 2013. So the League Cup was won by Swansea. They beat Bradford 5-0. Now this is becoming very much more obvious now because the answer is Michu.
Of course it is.
Bradford
beat us in the semi-final over 2 legs. How could I forget such a wonderful day?
Oh God, this it's very down on Villa. This episode.
Yeah, it's really not been good.
I think next week I'm going to bring you some all Villa wonders of white, and they're all going to be positive.
Yeah, can we go back to 1981, 82, European Cup and Super Cup? That'd be nice.
We will try and time travel for the sake of the podcast for Liam. But yet the answer to the teaser, I'm assuming, is Michu because he was probably the only goal scorer that year for Swansea. And they beat Bradford 5-0 in the
a bit of a one-sided final, that one, wasn't it?
To think that Bradford got to the cup final.
Yeah, an incredible achievement. Absolutely brilliant.
That must have been around the time they actually knocked Chelsea out the FA Cup as well. Whether it was that season or the season before. Remember that? That was a dark day. They beat us 4-2 at home as well. Ouch.
I remember that game as well. Yeah, that was...
I'm going to stop now. This isn't negative on Chelsea, mate.
Impressive, isn't it?
But yeah, that is everything for this week's podcast. Obviously, we will be back next week with the Premier League. We'll be back, so we will be talking about the games. Hopefully, we can talk about Villa winning this weekend, mate. Who they got this weekend?
I'm not actually too sure. Hang on, let me just quickly have a look.
I think unfortunately for you, mate, it's away to Man City, isn't it?
There's been so much football going on. I've no idea when the next games are even happening, let alone who we've got.
I think you're playing on Sunday against Manchester City. So
nice. That's an easy 3 points.
So we'll again. I think I will have to bring some positivity to Villa after this weekend. I think somehow.
I would appreciate it, yeah.
But yeah, well, yeah. So that is it for this week. Liam, you'll be back next week. Hopefully,
I will,
you're definitely going to come back. I've not insulted Villa too much for you not to come back.
More than that, mate. Don't worry.
But yeah, we will see you next week.